Welcome back again to Symbiosis Weekend, and I'm so grateful today to have Alicia Márquez to share with us. I believe her topic is about collaboration, so take it away. Here we
Thank you,
go.
Dorothy. Thank you, everybody, for being here. So, I'm I'm a graphic designer and also an artist of letters and text. On this opportunity, I wanted to share with you my thoughts about collaboration and why it is so important in my journey. I didn't exactly choose to learn how to collaborate. It was more of a necessity. I moved to a country where I didn't speak the language, didn't know the culture, and had no clue how people worked here. Fitting in wasn't optional. When you are thrown into an unfamiliar environment, you quickly realize you need others to, to move forward. After a long journey, collaboration became my go-to tool, not only to overcome challenges, but to gain new perspectives, truly learn from others, and grow. As a graphic designer, my daily routine revolves around analyzing the purpose and function of design. But when it comes to being a visual artist, whether I'm working with letters, calligraphy, or any kind of art, I realized that I needed to take a different approach to understand my work. These are the three keywords I use to analyze it. Next, I will share the wins, fears, challenges, success, frustrations, and revelations that go along with each one. Before collaborating with others, we need to know ourselves, what we are good at, what we can do, and as well where our limits are. This piece really resonates with me. I love working with monolines, but carving monolines, carving, carving relies on light and medium. So to create light and shadows, you need a surface. A single line on its own doesn't cast a shadow. So to solve that, you have to cheat a little. I came up with this possible solution. I ended up using an unconventional carving pattern, half V-cut, half rounded instead of full V-cut. Here's the final piece. Well, it doesn't exactly reflect a true monoline. It still holds that sense of a line rather than the stroke. Self-awareness. This project made me appreciate all those years of studying, realize how important it was to learn and practice with the right people, and see that I'm fully capable of bringing an idea to life. This is an 100% made an improvised wash piece. Using rolling pens and brushes, I painted each letter directly onto the paper without any sketching. It says a mix of sense and not sense, but in Spanish. Um, I'm so sorry, I can't see anybody, so is everything okay? Everybody tell me?
Yes,
We're good.
super.
Yes. Awesome.
And we're here.
We're here.
Thank you. Around this time, I decided to learn augmented reality with Beatriz Lozano. What started as a drawing, lettering, a calligraphy project, turned it into the design for one of the exercises in that course. In no time, a completely analog and improvised piece turned it into a series of fully controlled elements, digitalized, moved by mathematical coordinates, code, HEX colors, pure logic. Here's the result. Language and self-awareness. I realized that no language is off limits. You just need to put the time to learn it. Also found out we have more tools at our disposal than we think. Back in school, I was good at math, physics, and project thinking. But when I chose to study visual communication and calligraphy, I kind of left that behind. Creating this was a blast. It helped me reconnect with my love for technical stuff and rediscover a part of myself I had ignored. This piece was a gift for my friend Linda. I made it intentionally hard to read because I wanted the expressions to take center stage. This almost asemic writing marked the phase of exploring my voice without constraints. I learned to value my own expression over understanding traditional letters. In the same quest for expression, I experimented with spontaneous movements and speed. Then I picked parts of those strokes that resemble letters to start forming the phrase on the right. Using that monoline, I made this digital piece that says, all the leaves are from the wind. It says in Spanish. Todas las hojas son del viento. I sketched the shapes by hand first, but finished it on the computer, where I'm faster. Uh, it's all about knowing yourself and using the techniques you are best at. Sometimes I wonder if switching tools and mediums make me lose something from the analog process. But honestly, when the final piece comes out better than I expected, I don't think it really matters. Here are some images from my latest trip to Wales, where I like to go to learn from my teacher, John Nielsen. I wanted to share these photos to show the environment where we carve letters in stone. Typically, this work is done outdoors in natural light. You can always, bring your big stones to your studio or because they are already placed on some places. Here's the stone I worked there. Welsh slate is famous for its quality. It's soft, has a fine grain, and is free of imperfections. It says 575. At home, I usually set my easel and workspace with lights at different angles so I can control the carving and spot all the imperfections. Back to this photo. Working outside means dealing with changing light. The earth, doesn't stop. The sun moves. You wouldn't believe how much a shadow can shift in just 10, 15 minutes. I finished my piece feeling great, surrounded by amazing people, thinking I nailed it. But when I got home and put the stone under my lights, everything looks wrong. The big cut was crooked, the edges were messy. How did I miss all that working outside? And how do those masters carvers catch those details I couldn't? Fixing this carving took a lot of hours. I had to rework what I've already done and spend time figuring out what went wrong. It's all about self-awareness and realizing how much we think we know versus what we actually don't. We need to stay observant and humble about our skills because too much self-confidence can cloud our vision. And if we lose that, we are in trouble. I wanted to talk about self-awareness related to languages. A couple years ago, I took a 7-month course in Islamic geometry with Serap Ekisler Somnas. I'm from Argentina. I'm a Koya native, which is a beautiful culture, South American culture. You might wonder why I studied Islamic culture. Honestly, I don't know. What I do know is that I love geometry. So I explored it through this culture. Here are three different explorations using Islamic geometry with 4, 6, and 8 points. As you can see, I really enjoy cutting paper. Just like letters, form and counterform creates a beautiful dialogue in Islamic geometric art. I realized that sometimes verbal language doesn't matter. Form lets us dive into other visuals and cultural societies without any barriers. This piece was created using different ruling pens and later vectorized. It says Ignacio and Federico, inspired by the poem Llanto por Ignacio Sánchez Mejías by Federico García Lorca. The poem repeatedly mentions at 5 in the afternoon, which is when the bullfighter died. The idea was to capture expressive forms of speed using quick but steady strokes, representing the last dance of these two friends. I arranged the composition of the two names on the round marble to mark the time 5 o'clock. I haven't finished this piece yet, and I'm not sure if I will. When I ran into problems carving neatly, I kept saying, the stone isn't cooperating. It doesn't collaborate. I acted like the stone was to blame for its own nature over 500 million years. What arrogance of my part at just 54. It's easy to point fingers, especially at something that can't respond. But the truth is, the stone does communicate with me every time I hit it with a chisel. If I can hear the sound or feel the tension from each strike, that's on me. I need to learn how to listen and understand the stone, not the other way around. Self-awareness. This experience has made me think about the skills I still need to develop: patience, research, testing. This piece is called Astor, in tribute to the Argentine bandoneon player Astor Piazzolla. I started out wanting to fold the entire name, but after a couple tests, what looked promising in sketches became too complex in reality. That's the challenge when working in 3D. The shapes get trickier once lights and shadows start playing a big role. So I decided to simplify and just focus on the initial only, the letter A. And here's the result. Simplifying the idea helped me focus on the volume and made the paper folding stand out even more. I wrote those hidden words inside the folds with a vibrant blue, representing the nightlife of Buenos Aires. The text says, Tangamente enamorada, a line for a tango written by Astor. The piece has hidden corners, edges, intersections, and deep shadows. With this piece, I learned to reduce things down to say more, to simplify in order to express more. My pieces usually start out super complex, and I tend to spend too much time trying to solve that complexity, as if being complicated is a good thing. This piece showed me that good folding technique is all you need to create volume, and that a single color can be really expressive if you know how to give it the right spotlight. The following samples were created with other people and by using ideas and work from others. Have you ever thought about how a piece you love could look if it were made from a different material? I do that all the time. I'm always thinking how things will look in volume in 3D. I saw this piece by Lisa Kibland in the Letters of Review. Lisa and I are both members of the Chicago Calligraphy Collective. The first and original piece is the one in blue, created with a ruling pen. The second version is a cut metal piece, also done by Lisa. Because of the characteristics of the strokes, I immediately imagined that the carved stone version would make a beautiful trio. I redrew and digitalized it. And this was the result, a beautiful red slate from Vermont. Really nice to carve with a special color. It's interesting to see how the strokes change on different materials based on their adaptation to a new medium and to a new hand, mine in this case, not Lisa's. It's really rewarding when someone else allows their art to be adapted in some other way. On one hand, it's a big responsibility, but on the other, it's liberating not to be working with my own art. This is Lisa. Have you ever felt such a strong connection to a piece of art that it made you think, I could have created this? I think this is a normal thought when you share a lot with the piece or the person who has made it. This is a piece by Eric de la Rosa. As soon as I saw this work, I knew I wanted to carve it. The stone carving is all about the play of light and shadow, contrast, and shades of gray. It's a monoline alphabet with a very sensitive study of gradients in relation to the letter lines and the organic shapes that contains them. I used pebbles, garden stones that are quite porous, almost like the texture of the paper used in this work. And here's the result. I aimed to keep the shadows from the original drawing by carving deeper in the darker areas and less in the lighter ones. I think I captured some of the original sense in 3 dimensions. Like with Lisa's work, starting from someone else's art is a breath of fresh air. Instead of creating from scratch, I get to adapt it to a new medium and translate it into another visual language. It's a very fun challenge. This is Eric. Have you ever been blown away by an invitation you never thought you will get? I'm always surprised. As probably many of us, we don't think we are good enough sometimes, right? This is a poster I made years ago for the Society of Typographic Arts, based in Chicago. It was for an exhibition called Chicago Characters, a short and incomplete history of design in Chicago. Each designer or artist was assigned a letter of the alphabet, and we were also given an important figure from the history of design in Chicago for inspiration. I got Right the Ball. I used one of his most famous quotes, disciplined freedom. The D is carved in slate. The Roman capitals are done with a flat brush, and the red word with an EZA pen. These were all the posters presented. It was an honor to participate. But what mattered most to me was being part of this group of people honoring the design, typography, and lettering history of the city where I live. I felt like I was part of this contemporary generation of artists. I enjoy collaborating with an organization that promotes my profession and the history of this discipline. There are certain moments or experiences that makes you feel connected to a place, like you are truly part of it. For me, this exhibition was one of those moments that made Chicago feel like home. Have you ever found yourself in someone else's art? I do that all the time. Sometimes it's such a strong connection I feel. I feel I know it like for long, even when I have seen this for the first time. This is a piece by Shizuka Toyama, a friend and Japanese calligrapher, also from the Chicago Calligraphy Collective, but now she's living back on Japan. Her work is very sensitive and delicate, just like with Eric de la Rosa work. As soon as I saw this drawing on paper, I knew I wanted to carve it. I needed a very hard stone for this piece because I knew it had to be very neat and detailed. That's how I ended up using a limestone from Wisconsin, which is quite different from the Indiana limestone I usually work with. This is how it turned out. I carved a different depth to create shadows like in the drawing. And I was happy I chose the right hard stone, which helped me make fine details. And Shizuka was happy with the result, and I was too. This is Shizuka. Ever thought you weren't good at something until someone showed you how capable you really are? Yes, it happened to me all the time. That's when you need good friends. Color. This was a chalk drawing on asphalt for a neighborhood festival in Chicago, inspired by the filete porteño, a traditional sign painting style from Argentina. I did this work with Judith Mayer, a designer, illustrator, and muralist from Chicago. I love collaborating with her because she pushes me to explore places I wouldn't naturally go. Black and white, textures, grays, lights, and shadows. Those are my comfort zone. But every time I create something with Judith, the language is all about color. The volume, on this conversation is high, the letters don't whisper, and it's all like pure energy. With her, I discovered that color is contagious, that color is happy, that color shouts one another, and that is a conversation like incredible fun. This is Judith. Ever just wanted to play around and realize that your friends have the best toys, not you? Also, all the time. Then what I do, I usually borrow them. Catich by Genaro Ramirez. Genaro presented this typeface at the International Calligraphy Conference this year. The typeface shows the necessary strokes to construct Roman capitals using a flat brush in the style of Father Catich, a master who dedicated his life, among other artistic pursuits, to studying Roman capitals. As an educational tool, this typeface is super useful because it visually shows the construction of the letters by the strokes. For calligraphy students, recognizing each stroke and the order in which letters are built is much more easy than for typography students. Thinking of them I came up with a way for them to experience the manual work of adjusting these letters. So based on the typeface, I cut out all the parts in colored acetates to reconstruct the letters manually. It's very fun to play with these letters, with these parts. Reconstructing them without the guide behind underneath is a bit more complex. But what happens when you stop following the rules? Being able to manually manipulate the shapes also gives us more freedom. And since we started playing, let's play more. Well, since we are at it, let's break all the rules. Why not? Collaborating just for fun, or the dangers of collaborating. As I see it, Genaro's typeface is a collaboration to the studies of Father Katic, also focused on education, but in a digital medium. My little contribution or collaboration is going back to analog, using a medium that encourages play. There are countless ways to explore letters and proportions. I hope this inspires you to create another version. This is Genaro. Ever felt like you need another life just to learn everything you want? I do. I want to excel on everything I like. But because it's impossible, I just find the persons who know those things and work alongside them. Alfarera. Alfarera is a book that contains a haiku written by Romina in Buenos Aires, printed in letterpress by Catalina in Miami, and designed by me in Chicago. Yes, it is possible to collaborate from a distance. It's a loose leaf book, which means it isn't bound on purpose, with the idea that someday another person at another time can analyze it and bind it with their own vision. In other words, it's a book that is 100% open to collaboration in its final stage. We plan to print this book using letterpress, but without any ink. It's designed to be read in the sidelight, encouraging a calm experience as you discover the words. Below, you can see the originals for the openings of the 5 sections of the haiku, and on the right is an infographic explaining how the pages are organized. Here are the opening pages of each section printed without ink. Well, actually, they do have ink. Catalina had to try out countless combinations of white inks to achieve the effect of looking like there's no ink at all. Here's the colophon. Collaborating is about adding, bringing your knowledge so others can contribute theirs. Even though I designed the book, I could never have written the poem or printed it with the dedication this project required. We didn't bind it because we thought this book deserves an artistic binding that none of us could envision at that point. In other words, there's still a collaboration pending on this work. It will come along eventually. This is Romina and Catalina. Have you ever felt you made a really good piece, but still something is missing? If you're like me, you know something is missing, but takes time to assume what it is. In my case, it's usually something I'm not good at it, and I don't want to admit it. until you think, well, this person or this other person will do such a better job than I. And then I start calling them. Another book. I love making books. I don't remember how this idea started, but I do remember that I accidentally pulled the threads of a fabric. And what seemed like an interesting texture in the fabric became the technique to express something and I wasn't quite sure what that something was. So I started reading poetry every day until the content emerged. Usually you begin a project with a concept, but sometimes it happens the other way around. I found a quote from Frida Kahlo that perfectly captured the feeling I was looking for. Nothing is absolute. Everything changes. Everything moves. Everything revolves. Everything flies and goes away. I soaked this cheesecloth fabric in a way that allowed me to manipulate the threads. And once it dried, I could shape and fold it like paper to create an accordion. When I started, I didn't know how to treat this fabric technically, so so that it would behave like a paper. That's when Sol Rebora joined the project. Sol is a professional artist bookbinder who guided me through various technical possibilities. I had to do a lot of testing before I found the right combinations of materials to manipulate the fabric successfully. At the same time, she was considering the concept for the binding and the covers. She made the covers from textured leather using the same fabric I had worked with. She designed the cutouts and the opening and closing pages, executing the binding with impeccable skill. Here are some photos of the final piece. When I finished the interior, I was thrilled. My design and execution met my expectations. But the binding, I could never have imagined what Sol proposed, and even less the use of the materials she typically works with. This was one of the most successful examples of collaborations I've had, and definitely one of the most rewarding. As a result, we became very good friends. That is not a minor thing. And we already planned other books where I will handle the content and she will do the binding, but we'll work together on the concept. Uh, it is a collaboration of crafts that allows us to grow alongside each other. This is Sol. Sorry. Have you ever wrapped up a piece only to find out it sparkled a whole new idea for someone else? I love when this happens. It's like a new life for something I already hung it on the wall or saved on the drawer. It feels amazing when you think it's totally revived. I started this work using a scalpel as my drawing tool, improvising each letter directly on the cutting mat. I layered and embossed the letters as I created them, and I ended up with the piece on the right. Here is from the front. One afternoon, Carolina Giovannoli, an Argentine typographer from Huerta Tipográfica, the typography group based in Berlin, contacted me and proposed creating the typeface. Knowing how Caro works, I said yes without a second thought. So I vectorized it. I grouped all the letters from the text, sent them to her, and said, "You are free to do whatever you want with them." The original idea was to create a color font where the letters would overlap in a visible way using any type of blending, whether through transparency, multiply, overlay, etc. These are all variables of the letter A. When Caro started developing the font, she also thought about combining all the variables of the letters by overlapping them with different colors, allowing for a play of form and counterform that is both independent and most interesting alternative. In other words, the user could use one shape and overlap it with any of the other shapes as a counterform and vice versa. This means that form and counterform could change roles by default or alternatively. Thus, the possibilities for customization multiplies almost exponentially, just with the shapes, not to mention that the colors could also be completely interchangeable by the user. And what if instead of two layers, we use 3 layers? At this point, we reevaluated what we wanted to do because it was getting too complex. To keep the sense of this piece, we decided that the main axis of the variables for this typeface will range from legible to asemic, the same way a font varies from light to bold. On this case, it's going to change from legible to asemic. Here are the first tests. 3 variations of the letter A within the same typeface, with each letter representing a different variable and the color chosen by the user. And here are the same letters, but in monoline and with adjusted spacing. There are still countless decisions to make. The possibilities for combinations are endless. Caro is still exploring the most suitable technical approach for these variables. Now it's time for us to refine and shape the project. This is Caro. Have you ever seen people connecting and felt like you wanted to join them? I don't have strong social skills. I could go to super introvert and say no word at all to extremely talkative without a filter. So I'm usually afraid to ask to be part of something, but inside, I do want to be part of everything. My FOMO is kind of intense. I must highlight the art of letters. I see mentorships as an incredible way to collaborate, not just with the mentees, but with a project that has a much bigger goal than the individual growth of its participants. It's a project that promotes calligraphy art, fosters community work and thought, and provides a platform to showcase and sell art. Not to mention the voluntary participation of both mentors and mentees. It's a living example of collaboration in action. And as a way to give back, I would love for anyone interested in collaborating on this book to reach out to me. I'm planning to remake the collage section, but want to leave the right side of each spread blank for you to add your own touch. If you have ideas for the binding, I'd love to hear them too. There are no restrictions or specific guidelines. Let's recreate this book together. Please feel free to contact me with your ideas. And hey, this invitation is not restricted to the Art of Letters participants only. This is the sweet Dorothy. Our profession, art and craft, is often marked by tints of ego and the sense of ownership that begins and ends with ourselves. It's filled with fear, of having our ideas stolen and bias and prejudice about not being the first to create something. The second part of this presentation wouldn't be possible without the collaboration of those amazing persons. I couldn't do any of those pieces alone. When I choose to connect and share my work and ideas with other minds and other hands, I know for certain that the project will grow exponentially. And if I can be humble and smart, perhaps I can grow as well. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you, Alicia. That's amazing. So many amazing pieces. Awesome. There are a lot of questions, a lot of questions. So let me scroll through and find them. Um, boop, 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 boop. Sorry. Okay, what are the challenges? Rosanna wants to know, what are the challenges that you have encountered when collaborating with others?
Well, I think the first and most biggest challenges is self-awareness. I think it's you have to know yourself and what you're capable to give and how open you are to receive, also like without conditions. Uh, when you are in that position, everything is possible. I have never have a no as a replay when I asked to collaborate. Never. Um, until now, everything I did in collaboration was successful in the terms, and all the parts were happy. We are happy. So I think it starts with you. What do you feel you can give openly, kind of blindly, to allow the other person to feel the confidence to do their best too.
Is another question from Christopher. Is the collaboration via Zoom only?
And by Zoom,
Do you collaborate only via Zoom or also in person? How does
oh,
it work?
yeah, I do it any way I can. With people in Chicago, I do it in person. With people for other countries, I just connect them, ask them for their opinion, um, request the art, and I show them all the steps on my on whatever I'm doing with their art. Um,
Mm,
yeah.
great. Okay, do collaborators' tastes merge with yours slightly or to a great extent?
I'm sorry, can you repeat it?
Do the collaborators' tastes merge with yours? And if so, do they merge slightly or to a great extent? Do you
Um,
share the same taste, you and the collaborators?
Oh, the taste.
Yes.
If we agree like aesthetically on whatever
Mm,
we want. Mm. Well, I think by default, kind of you are connected to some pieces. That was why you want to collaborate with them. Um, I don't think it's exactly restricted to taste. It's more about empathy.
mm,
It's more about what do you feel about that piece and how do you feel you can make it continue, in grow or or change directions or start a new thing. Um, I never make well trying to respond that I don't think I never collaborated with something I didn't like it, or I wasn't really strong at connected with it. Yeah.
Mm, yeah, okay. A question about the pages of Nothing is Absolute. Lily wants to know, how were the cheesecloth pages kept from fraying?
Oh, what I did, in bookbinding, you make your own glue with starch or and water boiled.
Mm,
You make your own PBA natural. So I did test many densities and combinations of different starch or flours with water, and tested many times brushing with that natural glue the cheesecloth. When they was totally wet, I moved the threads
mm,
to create the shapes of the letters and let it dry.
mm.
So when it was totally dry, it behaved like a paper, and you are able to fold it and everything.
Wow, fascinating. One more question from Christopher. Are the pieces going back and forth?
Some of them, for example, the cheesecloth book, the Nothing, I made the interior and sent the interior to Sol Rebora in Argentina, where she has her studio.
Mm,
It was a traveler piece that, because then she traveled to Codex, the book uh, festival in San Francisco, where she
mhm.
always, has her work. So he made the book binding there and brought it to Codex. And then that book was sold there. And I couldn't travel, so I haven't seen the final piece because at the moment it was sold and it's already with a private collector. So yeah, it moves. And with the other book, the one who I made with the white book, also the same. I will do the design, everything here, the digital part. I will do the calligraphy part, and then send those. Some physically, some are digitalized to Catalina in Miami, where she was doing the letterpress. And once it was done, it went to Buenos Aires because it was part of a postgraduate course project. So it went there for exposition, approval, and final touches there. Uh, so yes, some things have to travel, others don't. Many of them I just saw the art and asked the art to the artist. They will send me an image, a very resolution image, and I will work based on that at home.
Yeah. Alicia, I'm just wondering, how do you approach somebody to ask them to collaborate? Especially if you are cold calling, right? They totally don't know who you are. What is the approach?
Well, I just ask. I just will say, I love your work. It just I feel so connected.
Mm,
I will really, from very humble, would like to try my hand
mm,
and given a different life, or trying to project whatever I do in a different way. Because what I try to do is not to replicate whatever they do, and it's just trying
right.
to make a different thing, to a new starting point, a new view of what is that is mine. So, and usually people is very interested in the way other persons see these other
Mm,
things.
right.
Uh, at least in my experience. I also understand that there's some people that doesn't like at all their art to be touched or thought about that or criticized it or opinionated about that.
Yeah.
And I get that too. I guess that's not the people, that kind of people I connect to do this.
Mm,
Mm.
okay. So when they say no to you, then that's it. You don't like pursue them.
Exactly. Nobody says no to me, I have to say.
It's true, it's true. I think the
Yeah.
curiosity of it. I'm asking that because, I think that it takes a lot of courage to approach somebody and say, hey, I'm so and so, and your work really connected to me. And I think that takes a lot of courage. And also for the other person to give you that permission, because it's a very personal work, right? But I think that, like what you said, the effect of it, the work that comes out could not have been produced by either person alone. So I think that's precious. Yeah.
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 I
Julie,
think it's also a matter of how you think about your work, you
mm,
know. If you
yeah.
think your work is your only, I don't think you will be too open to collaborate. But if you think that your work is possible because you learn from many other people, because you experience looking other things, because we are the sum of many things we learn. We are not producing the pieces we produce because magically we know everything. We have been learning from many other peoples, from many other situations and cultures. So I will never consider, and don't even consider the pieces I do by myself like mine. Sometimes what happens to me is that some people feel so strong connected to something I did more than I'm connected to that piece
Mm,
because something triggers them more than me doing it.
mm.
Uh, at that point, for example, I think those pieces belongs to those persons more than me, even if I made it. It's such a weird thing. So I think it's more about what do you think about your art, and if you really think that everything you build and made is just you or not.
I love that. That's a very interesting perspective. Thank you. That's awesome. Collaboration is like teaching, yet with both parties on the same level. It's true. Yeah. Does anybody else want to? You can just unmute actually and just join in the conversation. Um,
Actually,
feel free.
Alicia, I just feel like what you presented, where you come from is a place of appreciation and mutual respect for each other's work. And
Mm,
that comes through so much, and it's so beautiful to see how you
mm,
start conversations. It's like I love letter, like sending letters, but like through art, it comes through in each piece of art. So that's beautiful. So thank you for sharing how you think about collaboration and how you seem to really connect with the artist like through your work,
yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agree. Agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I Anyone else wish to add to the conversation? Oh, yes, Julie, go ahead.
So I've have the privilege of being in the same guild as Alicia, and watching her grow is not just an artist, but a calligrapher. She's a wonderful graphic designer, and she just inspires me all the time. She's just always coming up with something new and explores. And I mean, she explores to the nth degree. When she jumps into something, she goes in all. And her stone carving is just absolutely amazing. What she does with stone is just absolutely phenomenal. So I just love that you were a part of this, and love watching you grow and explore. So it's a privilege to be alongside of you.
Likewise, Julie. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Um, Anyone else? Feel free. Christopher, maybe you want to unmute and just say whatever you wanted to say.
You hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes, sir.
I just tried to write out that sometimes I see work by someone else and it's like I should have made it. And then it's a kind of collaboration where I don't have to do anything. It's made for me.
I see. So you see
Yeah.
at work, you feel so connected, and you feel like you should have been the one who made it. but the other
Yes, well,
person has made it already. So it's
yes,
as if your work was done for you. Yeah, that's interesting.
it can make me a little bit jealous.
But that's when Alicia feels that the work should then belong to you because you have that connection to it.
Yes,
Yeah,
Totally.
it's nice. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
thanks.
Yeah. So the offer to collaborate with you, wow, that's amazing. That's like so generous. I mean, I can imagine a lot of calligraphers would feel like, okay, this belongs to me, nobody touch it. You know, you're gonna make it into a different animal. So I think that that level of generosity is really is beautiful. Yeah, so thank
How do
you.
we connect with you, Alicia?
Yeah, good.
Yes, of course. That's the fun part, you know. Yes, of course you're gonna have fear because you love what you do. And you've been doing like whatever you're doing, like very thorough. But what I've learned collaboration is it's always surprising you. You know, always some people will think things that you haven't thought.
Mm,
And will see the thing, the same thing, and from such a different place and with and having such a different skills, you know, talking so different languages. And that's always is an adding point. You know, it's just how wrong can it be? It's always a surprise to me. And if you like um, approach this like super positive, in a positive way, not from a fear way, not from it's gonna be fine, you know. And it's also a collaboration between two persons or three or whoever. And and if you feel like you know you are not up to at some point, or you don't want to continue or whatever, that's okay too. It's not it's not a contract, you know. It's something we do because well, we want to do because we think it's gonna be adding something
yeah.
somehow.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, I
Yeah.
think somebody actually asked, how do they connect with you? What is the best way to connect?
Oh, just send me a message on Instagram, send me an email, call me if you have my number. I love to hear whatever you want. If you want to take any of my pieces and do other things or continue or you know, it's to me it's like it's liberating also when somebody just wants to, you know, change things I'm doing. It doesn't mean that I'm gonna change my way to work. You know, it just opens my head to think a different way.
Mm,
And again, it's not a tie thing, you know, it's not a contract. You always can stop and say, you know, I'm not comfortable anymore with that, or I wasn't what I thought. We're just human.
yeah.
I'm sorry, Annabelle was
Annabelle?
waving, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I made a comment. I'm in awe with you. When I saw, I guess, publish your lace piece, your cheesecloth piece, it's like, oh my gosh, this is just like a whisper. There's such a quietness to everything you do, and just the same with your stone carving. It just there's a subtlety and an elegance that I find awe-inspiring, and I really appreciate it. And actually, I saw the piece you did with Kata in person because I was trying to help her fold it. And I said, there's no way I'm touching any of this. This is so complex because every fold came in different directions. But it was beautiful. I just really admire your work and I thank you for it, for sharing.
Oh,
Thank you. Oh, one more thing I wanted to say about that cheesecloth book. That's another thing important about collaboration. Um, I couldn't have never myself sell that book. You know, I don't have the connections for with you know private collectors or something, or people who really will see the work on that and value the art on that. I don't have it. But in this case, for example, Sol has it. So also, you know, it's more like a technical part of this creation, the artistic part, but it's not minor. If you want to really sell work, you have to be connected with people, you know, who can do it. The same at here, you know, with the art of letters. So you cannot do everything by yourself. That's to me the most important message in every level.
Yeah. Okay, Dorothy Yuki is asking, do you know who bought the cheesecloth book?
Yes, was a private collector from New York. I'm super, yeah, and it's gonna live at the end in one of the libraries in New York because that
Oh,
that
okay.
man is,
Nice.
yeah,
Nice,
super
nice.
super cool. Yeah.
So cool. Well, it's past the hour. I'm going to end the presentation here. I will stop the recording. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Alicia, for sharing. Yay.
Thank you everyone for
Thank
coming.
you.